guys, and welcome back to my channel. I have gotten in the last couple of weeks a lot of requests if I have any patterns for wedding dresses, and obviously, in my opinion at least, any evening gown can be a wedding dress if you make it white or choose fabrics that are wedding-y kinda. So I always just referred them to, a few patterns of mine that would work as well, which are not clearly made to be wedding dresses. So I thought, if that is something you guys are interested in, why not just make dedicated wedding dress patterns? I don't know why I have not done that before, but here we go. We're going to make a wedding dress. I quickly went ahead and made a design right here on my iPad, and I think it looks pretty nice. Obviously, the length of the skirt is up to you because people have different heights, so that is something specific to you that you have to alter. I still have to get the tulle for the skirt because I only have the fabrics for the bodice. And speaking about the bodice, as you just saw with the drawing that I showed you, I wanted to do some flowers, something like that for the bodice, but I ended up actually not really liking the fabric that I had in mind for that I have in stock right here. So I went through my stash and found this lace right here, which I think looks really pretty. And I feel like, especially this kind of neck holder top with not too many, sewing lines in the front, this will look really, really nice. So let me show you the front that I have. This is what it looks like. Obviously, I made sure to mirror the design while cutting it out. And I think that's gonna look super, super nice. I'm actually super excited. That is what the side front pieces look like, and I think that's just gonna look really, really gorgeous and special in my opinion. And then obviously for the skirt, a very nice like satin would work as well, or maybe a tulle as I mentioned, or maybe chiffon or something like that. That is super individual if you ask me. I'm not yet quite sure what I want to do for the skirt. As I said, the design calls for tulle, but honestly with this bodice, which is totally different to what I anticipated, I might also change the skirt fabric and do something more sturdy, not so princessy looking like tulle. Maybe I'll do a Duchess satin or something like that and do a heavier skirt without the frill on the bottom. That I think would be too much, but I think a floor length Duchess satin gathered circle skirt, very specific, would look amazing. Then let's do some horsehair in the hem, and it's a very great design, I would say. So let's actually go ahead and start with the bodice because I have everything ready to go for that. It's gonna be a boned bodice because we want some structure up there, and as I said, a neck holder. And for the neck holder, we actually have some darts right here in the neckline to shape everything a little bit up. Otherwise, right here where it like goes diagonally, it would just gape open if you don't add darts anywhere, like somewhere. We have them right here and up here, and I think that's gonna work out pretty nicely. So what I will be starting with is basting all the pattern pieces together because I feel like otherwise this is gonna be more difficult than it needs to be. By the way, I also added interfacing, and while looking at it, I think I'll add interfacing to other specific spots. So I'll be adding interfacing tape to especially this diagonal line here because I don't want this to stretch out, and it is on the bias, so I'm gonna add interfacing tape with a stay stitch to avoid, like anything stretching out even more. And I might add that to the neckline as well. Like that. And now I can go ahead and baste both layers here together. Just make sure that I get the right side facing outwards. And with fabrics like this, it can be a bit, a little bit of work getting these perfectly lined up. So I just like to add pins throughout the inside here so that I have everything laying flat, and then I can go around without too many issues. And I'm doing that because obviously we have a very see-through fabric the lace that is. So wherever I'm adding seams or darts or anything like that, they will be visible on the outside, which I don't want to have. So I'm just gonna move it to the inside by basting the backing fabric, which is the simple cotton poplin, to the lace. Obviously you can also use a Duchess satin for that, any silk, anything that you like. You know, I think it's gonna look really nice with an elegant sheen underneath it as well. I just happened to not have anything like that in stock, so I just went for the cotton poplin, which I'm fine with as it's layered with the lace. Otherwise, probably I would have also used some shiny material like that. And now I can go around this while stitching into the seam allowance so that I can then close the darts and continue closing the seams throughout this pattern. And then we're not going to have any visible, you know, seam allowances on the outside. Let's do this also to all of the other pattern pieces, and then we can continue. So as you can see, I closed the darts at my front piece right here. So just put right sides together and close the dart. I just made sure to also mark it on the wrong side of my fabric. And I also went over my piece and sewed the lace partially onto the backing, so that especially here where there is a lot of space, so that it has something to grip on basically, and it's nicer. So you can do that by hand or by machine. I would suggest you do something because you don't want to have this loosely, because it gets caught and, you know, might get destroyed. Now we can go on and close the dividing seams. So I'm gonna start with the front dividing seam. I'm just gonna put right sides together and match up the notches. There are the underbust notch and the bust notch right here, and then obviously also the side here. So that's what it looks like. I closed the front dividing seam right here, and now I'm gonna iron everything, I think, open, because I'm gonna add some boning channels. In order to iron, I just clipped into the seam allowances every centimeter or so, just so that it opens up, as we have a lot of curves here. So for the boning, what I'm actually going to do is this 3mm wide plastic boning right here, which I think will work nicely. And I'm just going to top stitch next to the front dividing seam right until the underbust notch. And that will make my boning channel. So I'm just gonna mark it where the underbust notch is, so that I know where to sew. I'm just gonna go around this just like that. Then I'll have two closed boning channels, and I can insert, you know, the boning there. That's what it looks like. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and cut off some pieces that are long enough to fit in here, but short enough to leave the seam allowance unboned. So I'm just gonna cut a centimeter above that, a little bit more than a centimeter, more like 1.2. And I like to just clean up the edges with my lighter so that it's not gonna poke through. And I'll just cut 4 of these small itty bitty bonings. And now I'm gonna insert them between the 2 poplin layers, and I'll do the opposite curve. So this one lays like this, so I'm gonna do this one next to it the opposite curve, so that it ends up being straight basically. Like this. And there you see that the seam allowance doesn't have the boning in, which is really important because you don't want to sew over it, or if you ever want to, you know, work with it, you need to be able to fold it, and you can't do that if there was boning in there. I like to go over my bonings, like the plastic boning, with my iron to kind of mold it in place with the heat. So I'm just gonna go over it like this, and then I'll take something heavy and cold and put it on top. And that just keeps it straight. And just to prevent it from going, you know, like from coming out again, I'm just gonna cap it off right here with a bar tack, and then that is done. And let's continue working on the side seam right here. We can just put right sides together and close this. And then on the back dividing seam, we're actually gonna put our lacing panel and our back piece in like simultaneously. So I'm gonna show you how to do that in a second as well. So let's just close the side seams. So what I'm actually going to do here as well is add cups to the inside here. So you can see that I already pinned this side on, and now I'm going to pin the other side with you guys. So I have like this just from an old bra that I cut up and that I wasn't wearing anymore. So I'm just going to put these right here. They fit pretty nicely into the cup area anyways, so I'm just gonna place them here, trying to mirror the position from the other side, turning everything right sides up. And then I'm gonna use some pins to hold it in place. And I'm always going from the middle towards the outside to kind of smooth everything out like that. And as you can see, this looks really, really nice and smooth. And now from the inside, I'm gonna hand sew the cups in place. This is optional, you don't need to do that, but I just want to be able to wear this braless, and I feel more comfortable with this in there. Because it is a neck holder, you will be seeing the straps. Otherwise, if you would wear a bra, obviously you can wear strapless, but I figured it would be the best to just insert the bra into the dress and have to not worry about it. So that's what I'm gonna do here, and we can go ahead and hand sew that on. So I went ahead and transferred the stitching lines for the boning channel onto one of my 6 backlacing panels. This right here is what it's going to end up looking like. Just ignore the eyelets, they look horrendous. I was not able to use my Vario creative tool because the eyelets are too small. So I had to resort to the good old hammering in technique, and yeah. So I'm gonna do the same for the other side. I have my markings right here, and now I'm gonna take one as a backing, another layer, and I'm just gonna stitch down wherever I marked, just stitching in the 3 boning channels. And now that's what it's looking like. We can insert the boning right now. And I'm just gonna cut pieces that, you know, go from here to here. And now I can go ahead and actually bar tag the boning channels shut. And once I've done that, I can put right sides together. Just make sure that you have 2 different sides panels then in the end, and that you're not going to make the same twice. And you're gonna top stitch right here, leaving the back dividing seam open so that you can turn everything right sides out. Let's cut the edges down. And now once we turn everything carefully right sides out. You have to be careful because you have the boning channels in here, and if you use too much force, it can rip through the fabric. And let's go ahead and iron everything flat. And now I want to go ahead and mark the eyelet placements. I'm going to do the eyelets off camera because it's really not pretty to look at. I'm going to use every second, so I'm going to start with the one right there at the corner, and then every second eyelet, and I'm going to put them in right now. Okay, and now both of these are finished. They're not the prettiest, as I said, the eyelets, they're just not nice at all, but nothing of this will be visible, so if you do this yourself, just choose eyelets that you know work and look nice. And I think you'll be better off than me because I really don't like it. I don't really want to show it, but that's what it is, and it's gonna get sewn into the dress. And it will be covered up, so don't worry. This is basically just a helper to zip up the dress. So it's like a sewn-in corset type of thing, so that you tie yourself in, you know, and then you zip yourself in, if that makes sense, so that there is not too much pressure on the zipper. Which, you know, it's an invisible zipper, it doesn't have too much strength. So this hopefully works and, you know, takes a little bit of tension off of the zipper. So from this point on, it's kind of getting a bit tricky for me to show you how to continue because I'm doing it wrong. And I actually only after the fact realized what I'm doing wrong and how to actually do it. And I'm trying to kind of like work in the lacing panel into the shell and lining it at the same time. And it's like this whole struggle and it's not right. And I don't want you to look at it and be like, oh, that's how you do it, because you're not. That's not how you do it. You need to treat the lacing panel as lining until the very last minute when you can top stitch it. You know, the dress is already done by that point. So you can finish the shell, just close the back dividing seam, iron it flat. You can also add a boning channel to that seam as well. And then I want you to also finish the lining as a separate layer, how you would usually do it. Just don't close the back dividing seam as of right now, as there will be the lacing panel sewn into that seam. And once you've ironed all the seams in the lining as well, you can take your back lining and, you know, the other front, side back conglomerate that you just finished, and the lacing panel. Now put right sides of the lacing panel together with the right side of your back lining. And then you're going to put that whole thing right sides together with the side back to close the back dividing seam. So back lining and side back lining are right sides facing, and the lacing panel, there's that side that's gonna be touching your skin facing the side back. And once you've closed the back dividing seam, you have one layer of shell that is completely finished, and then you have the other layer, which is the lining, which includes the lacing panel, that is also completely finished and separate. Then you can just close the neckline as per usual, and that's actually where I'm going to continue the recording of when I did kind of wrong, because the neck piece is gonna get sewn in the same way as is the neck seam is sewn in the same way, and how you work with it and so on. Just imagine that the back piece is also part of this whole thing. And now we can put right sides together of the bodice and the lining. We're gonna leave the neckline open because we're gonna finish it with the neck piece. So we're just gonna sew along here. I'm gonna try to understitch this. I think it's gonna be a bit difficult, but before doing that, I definitely have to cut towards the stitching line here in the round area. Otherwise, it's just not gonna work, so that this is able to open up like this. And now I can go ahead and try to understitch this. It seems easier. Okay, yeah, that's doable. And now I'm gonna try to iron the ditch of the seam towards the wrong side, but it should be fairly easy because we prepared everything already. Right here where the cup is, it could be a bit tricky. So to finish the bodice, we have the neck piece right here. I went ahead and ironed it in half already. I'm gonna have this side facing outwards, so that's also the side that I want to iron the seam allowance in. So on the right side of my neck piece, so the one that will sit towards the right, as you can see here, this is gonna go like this, so it's gonna sit on your right side. I wanna go ahead and add some button loops. I have a satin strip like right here. I would suggest to use elastic material. If you have a round elastic, for example, would work great, just because it's easier to put on and it's more comfortable if you have a little bit of give. But I don't have anything right now, so I'm just gonna use this, which is fine too. I'm gonna cut off 3 of these small itty bitty pieces here. They're 4 centimeters, and I'm going to add them. I have all my placements marked in the center back here, and I'm just gonna place them above and below each notch, and that should be, I'm gonna do one side first and then go down the other, like go down again and flip this over like so, and have everything fixed in place then like this. I'm gonna do that under the sewing machine as well. And with this prepared, I'm going to put right sides together. You can match up the notches, which is pretty handy. You don't need to fold in the seam allowance here because you can sew all the way towards this notch right here. So we're gonna go down, pivot, go here and stop at the notch. And then from there to the other notch, the front piece will sit here. So we can repeat the same for the other side. Right here, we're just gonna add buttons, so we can do that afterwards once this is all finished. So we're just gonna go down here and pivot and go towards the notch right here. And then we're gonna turn everything right sides out. Let's cut away the corners here so that we can turn everything nicely over. I'm gonna cut down here as well, basically like that. I'm gonna leave this part here on as there are the seam allowances for the loops, and I wanna have some strength there. If I cut it short, it's just gonna rip out, and you know, I don't want that. So I'm just gonna leave it as is. And now I'm gonna try to turn everything right sides out. I like to use a metal straw for pieces like this. Let's just give this a quick iron. And one thing that I want to do in order to be able to sew this nicer onto my neckline, right here where the notch is, I want to cut towards the stitching line, and on the other side as well. And that is the side that lays towards the inside, so the side that we did not iron inwards. And now, taking our bodice, you can go ahead and put the non-iron side together with the lining. You probably want to, it should be fine. I wanted to say you probably want to cut into the neckline, but that's fine. It opens up nicely because it's on the bias, as you can see here. So you just want to match it up like this. Maybe I am gonna cut towards the stitching line. Like this, and now I can go from here to finish the neck, and then we're gonna flip this over and top stitch it down. So I actually have to cut today's video here. The bodice is done. I also went ahead and added these pearl buttons right there. I'm gonna do the skirt portion next week. I wasn't able to get the fabric in time, so that's why I had to split it. I hope you're okay with that. So this video is probably a little bit shorter, as will be the next one, but you know, it is what it is. And I hope you're excited to see this dress come to life as well. Maybe I'm gonna try to put this on, you know, as a bodice, just like that, and see how it fits for some pictures for my Instagram. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you'll get notified every time that I post, and to get notified for part 2. So don't forget that. And as I just said, maybe you're interested in following me on my Instagram. There will be links to all my socials in the description down below. I'm doing like loads of reels on tips and tricks, especially on like every week's project, so that might be of interest to you. The most direct way to support me in K videos just like this one coming is to head over to my Etsy store, where you will find the pattern for this wedding dress once the second part is out, so once I'm done with this dress. So if you're watching this in the future, this might already be the case, and you'll find a link in the description, like a direct link to the pattern. If not, it will be up with part 2, so you can look out for that. And yeah, check out the Etsy store anyways, because there are loads of patterns for like different levels as well. I have my shop grouped in 3 different sewing levels, basically, to beginner to very advanced. Also make sure to always read the sewing instructions and the item description especially, as there are valuable information already in there, so you don't have to write me a message, as I'm not reading the messages on my Etsy because it's just overwhelming. There's so much, like I can't handle it. So I'm very sorry about that, but I feel like I've never said that. It is written in my store and stuff, so if you take a look, you'll see. A special thank you to my channel members. You can get exclusive benefits through the link in the description down below. So thank you so much for supporting me that way. And with that, I'm going to see you next week when we finish this dress. Thanks so much for watching, and until next week. Bye guys!